Hello, hello. This is Radio Kasia, or the Daydreamer podcast. This is your host, Kasia, speaking. So, I wanted to talk today about something that has affected my life a lot, and I hope that my story will be, relatable to someone. Maybe you will pick up some tips from my story. Maybe you will feel like you're not alone, and then you can get out of it. You can get to the other side of the problem. So, I'm talking about anxiety. So, I will tell my story and where I am now, but that's later on this beautiful, beautiful, very summery day in spring in the UK, in the southeast of England. I will be talking about anxiety. So, when did my anxiety start? So, I had in the past situation in the university that I'm pretty sure when I look at it retrospectively right now, that was the anxiety. I started getting dizzy. I barely could function. Woke up one day and just it felt like I looked at the bathroom floor and it just looked weird. Like I don't know, maybe feeling a bit off balance. I wasn't fully getting dizzy, but I just felt like I may get dizzy. Or I just felt like unstable. Um, I was still living with my parents. It stressed the hell out of me. Like, what is going on with my head, with my body, with my mental health? And I went to the doctor immediately on the day, and there was some doctor, like a doctor of rehabilitation, like a physiotherapy. Um, and I mean, it wasn't physiotherapy, it was like a doctor specializing this type of ailments. So he said that the way my neck is built, I have a tendency to keep my neck like chin to the front, so it causes like these stairs on my neck, and when I tense muscles, that it gives all these symptoms of when you don't have the greatest blood oxygen flow into the brain. So that was causing it. So would go to the physiotherapy. I would go 3 times a week, but that illness put me to bed. I had to drop everything that was I thought was important to me. And at that time, I don't know, not many many things I was actually doing were that important. Just living very carefree life. But that doesn't matter. Where I should not be judging myself based on where I'm now, because everybody's anxiety or everybody's situations is what matters is how they see it. No comparisons. It doesn't matter if somebody has worse. So yeah, so at that time I was very looked like exhausted, mentally exhausted. And I figured out there were situations that I was going on a cruise with my mom, and I realized that when I don't pay attention to my symptoms, they go away. It doesn't have to mean that this is strictly psychological, but that's a very good indicator that it might be. And yeah, I started realizing that maybe there's something more, or maybe that's like multiple things at the same time, because we need to remember it doesn't have to be this or that. We don't have to work with this. People that work with the physical body against the people who work with mental health, against the people that work with spirituality. Apologies. Sorry, just need to sip of water because losing my voice. We need to look at this human's body holistically. To me, it's always soul, psychology, and the physical all work together, and the body to me is typically the end of this chain. So the things if they starting happening in the body, in my opinion, it already went through some problems on the soul level, meant in your head. There was like maybe you were exhausted, you weren't paying attention, maybe you were pushing through. And when you didn't listen to that, also it manifested in the body. So that was the first time, as I recall, my meeting with psychosomatic symptoms. And they can be severe because what my body wanted, just wanted me to rest, wanted me to forget about anything else that I was worrying about. And just lie in bed. And this is what had to happen. Um, Over the years, I learned to play, as I say, play chess with my symptoms. I have a new symptom. I realize that this is mental. I take control, but the body now then gives me something else. We are like, the same level of intellectual capacity against each other playing. So yeah, we're just it's a difficult opponent. I mean, these days I have a bit. I am much more observant, but we'll get with the story where I am now and what I think about the potential for healing, like a full healing. So yeah, so that was the main incident. I've also, since I was 17, I've had on and off. Um, it's it's again, it's IBS, it's irritable bowel syndrome. When you're like your bowels are just very easily stressed, and then you can have some nasty symptoms. But um, it's not only that, it's not only psychological for me. There is a part of it, but there's a part of me having very strong antibiotic in first 2 months of my life because I was ill, which destroyed my microbiome. There will be different like a family stuff that intertwined with this. So it's just a lot, not to mention that I'm a highly sensitive person, which is being highly sensitive, it's typically needed to have spiritual gifts, but that makes your nervous system very easy to be overloaded, and to be very, sensitive, and that can also affect your bowels. Bowels are typically the most common first ones, right? So most people know that stomach hurts when you are stressed. The problem is when you have the bowel symptoms, but you don't feel stressed. So then there is this, it surpassed already to this next level of somatization. Yeah, this is when it gets tricky because it's not always that easy to know this is why it's happening. I tend to, when I feel some symptom coming, I'm asking myself, what is going on now? Is there a possibility that I am now living through something, that I'm just not paying attention? And typically the answer is yes. Yeah, so that was then uni. Then I think for many years I didn't feel like I was anxious, but I've always had this problem of being a bit disconnected from my body, like, or pushing through, I think the pushing through created the situation of being disconnected. So, like, let's not be weak, right? Let's just see, we're not weak, we will just push through. And this is ends up like it ends up typically quite badly. A kind of better that it happens sooner than later, because the later it happens, the more severe it can be. So yeah, I lived many years thinking that I'm not an anxious person. Then when I met my husband, and I talked to him about how I go back home from work, even though it's the same journey I was taking, like I would take like almost every day. Back then I would be 4 or 5 times a week in the office, and I told him how many times I check that this is the right train, this is like London Underground, that then I come onto the train, and then I need to, on the map, there are maps above these seats, and then I look, like, am I there? I need to find my stop and see, and I constantly would have to check. Yeah, I till today I like to check that I'm on the right, like a stop. It's partially boredom, but it wasn't boredom back then. It was just this anxiety: am I in the right place? Where to get off? And he was like, "Oh, and I'm sure that your belly hurts because you ate something." Like, he obviously meant it in the like ironic way, like, "Woman, do you hear yourself? Like, that even like going on a train, you're causing the amount of overthinking, this the amount of these daily hassles, not like a strong stressors, but the stress that is with you every day. That just this is even worse, because it starts changing like your physiology. It starts changing your, like, teaches you new behaviors. Yeah, so it's really not good. Yeah, so that was like, okay, I am anxious. Yeah, yeah, I haven't thought of that. I just learned to live this way. But you know, actually, I kind of jumped, because I had before I met him, I had the worst episode. This was like a night of my soul when I moved to the UK. So this is all happening maybe 6-7 months before I met my husband. It was around September, October. I came to the UK 1st of May, and my family is very close. And when I was in Poland, I would, even if I moved out 6 months before I moved to the UK, um, it was still I was so close to them that, I would do like this millennials shopping at their house and stuff like that. I was still a child. Um, and then when I moved out so far, umbilical cord got cut out, like almost pulled off from me. Like, now I thought of Matrix, like they have this disgusting pulling out from your mouth, this like a plug that keeps you into Matrix, and that crashed. And from the perspective, it was very important. It's not a coincidence that I met like 6-7 months later my husband, because all my foundations, there was like a tarot tower. All my foundations just were damaged, were just completely destroyed. And yeah, I could build on that again, but it's typically the symptoms of that, of this full crash of your mental structures, comes in a very strong way. For me, that was panic attacks. That was the only time in my life I experienced panic attacks. And no fun. If you've ever experienced panic attack, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, everybody experiences them differently, but I felt every night like I was falling into the black hole, and the amount of emotions were just practically like unbearable. I was shaking, I couldn't sleep. And then, I moved to the UK. I had some debts that I had to pay off, and that I got to move, because I moved as a junior employee within the company, and they gave me good salary, but they haven't helped me. So I knew I'll be fine over time, but I had to get money before. Um, so yeah, I knew I had to go to work. I had to pay my bills. I had to, pay my rent. Um, so I had to get up and go. No matter how I felt, I just couldn't stay in bed. And so I would be pretending in the office that I was fine, and I would, my eyes, the amount of adrenaline that I had, the different hormones, like the ones that affect your eyes, um, I just felt like everything is behind the fog. There was an element of dissociation there, but also this adrenaline, like a iris adjustment, that I was practically almost always in a fight, um, where you could focus on one thing, but everything around you is a bit foggy. It felt horrible. I obviously delivered very well, because like, why wouldn't I? As a woman with very strong PMS, even maybe PMDD, um, I know how to show up at work, barely alive, which is something I know you have to sometimes, but these days I do it way less. If I can't, I can't. So just a sip of water. Yeah. So I showed up. I remember a situation where I was sitting in the office and I was looking around, feeling crap, but just pretending like everything is all right. And then I saw um, one of the women that worked there, not from my team, but from the other team I worked with. She had a mug with Cheshire Cat. I love Alice in Wonderland. It's always been my favorite fairy tale and I like children's book. And it said, "We are all crazy here." And it made me feel like, what if I'm not the only person that's going through that? And if not through that, it may be something else, right? We're all sitting in front of the computers, pretending that we are all right. But how many people are actually not all right in that moment? Yeah, probably plenty. Probably plenty. People are dealing with their own stuff. So that was this part of me, going through this night terrors. Um, and I was looking for help from some friend who does like a herbologist. Like she works with herbs, um, and that's some bioenergy healing. And she was like coaching me a bit, helping. I was trying to go outside when I didn't want to. I was going so to not have space for my brain to think. It was alright, but I don't think it was groundbreaking for me. Um, I was, yeah, there was some other exercise I don't remember because not much was helping. And then I had an application. I don't remember what was the name of the application. It has like affirmations. I think it was even for anxiety sufferers. And the, the, the quote popped up and it said, "You cannot control the waves, but you can learn how to surf on them." And that was a game changer. I know it sounds like nothing, but my mentality shifted. I was like, all right, so this is not the way. I need to I need to observe. I need to just allow it to pass without being dragged in by it. So yeah, this is what I did. And it helped a lot. I was feeling better. I was still having these panic attacks, but I was feeling better through them. And one day, and like, I don't know how I did it, okay? I don't know. But one day, in the night, so one night, I was going through the panic attack. I was exhausted because that was going on for like a month or so. I thought like I won't be able to do my job if this continues, if I don't sleep, etc., etc. And I said, I'm done. I'm done with panic attacks. I just cannot do it anymore. I'm done. And that worked. What was the mechanism here? I mean, I took control. So I know it's a bit contradictory that I said don't control it, observe it, which is the best way, because when panic attack comes, it's like a tsunami, right? It's not much you can do. You can start jumping and just burning some adrenaline. That's the things you can come doing. But if you want to take control of that, you will lose. But I think the way I took control, it wasn't the same part. It's just like something else switched in me, something very healing. And I'm really sorry, I don't know what that was. But yeah, that was my story. Came to the place where, like, like this phoenix, I was ready to come out from the ashes to get like reborn. And I made that decision that was then, and I did it. Um, yeah, yeah, that's, I know it sounds a bit crazy. So, but for the people that are not are different, because you might be the same, you might find the strength to just like take control of like your full mental health. But I would recommend for majority of people to practice observation of the emotion. Maybe this is how it works. You observe the emotions first and then you grab them. I haven't met anyone like me, even though I've worked with people with anxiety. As I've worked, yes, we're still working. My main clients, relationships and anxiety, but I never had that story. Yeah, so that's all very helpful. Focus on the part where you're just observing the emotion, you are the observer, and allow it to pass through you. So that's when my panic attacks finished. But since then, I had a lot of, maybe not, I never had a panic attack since that day. But the anxiety is coming and going depending what is happening in your life, the tendency to overthinking. So you see, this is the part which will not necessarily sound positive. There are people that heal fully. There are people that heal fully. You had the panic attacks, you were overthinker, you are a warrior, and it goes away. But there are people like me that it never fully goes away. There is some kind of a combo of learned behavior, of some physiology changes because you've been doing something for so many years functioning a certain way. There will be your natural brain chemistry, the things you took out of your home, right? My mom is a warrior also, but this is the things that are easier to work for. This natural tendency to be an overthinker and to stress about stuff and to have this, intensity of feeling, that's sometimes part of you. So for some people, it will be like the target will be, let's heal it fully. And for some people, it will be how to get it to the level when it doesn't take joy from your life, when you can actually live your life, that you go out of the worst of like a panic attacks, of create like a very high anxiety that doesn't allow you to live, and then what's left over, you have some tools how to manage it. Like, I know, if I wake up in the night and I have a heart palpitation, haven't happened for a while, but can happen because I'm stressed about something, and then what I do, just breathe through it and just go to sleep. Right? I mean, sometimes with heart palpitation, even when you breathe through it, it doesn't want to fully relax, and then it's difficult to sleep because with the heart beating through your chest, it's just physically difficult to fall asleep. But like I know people who wake up with this type of heart palpitation and they just run to check their blood pressure and start taking pills, beta blockers. You know, sometimes it will be physical, but I know for me it's not, right? And I just relax. I don't give in. Nothing is happening. It's this insight into your body, this insight into your psychology is very, very important. You just need to learn, and this you learn it through practice. You learn it through going deep into your brain, into your mental side, to just learn what's there, and then you can recognize what's going on. And like I said, you start noticing something. Okay, let's just sit down with it for a moment. Like, have I been stressing about something? It doesn't mean you can never go to the doctor. No, of course you can. And this is the thing about insight, right? Is it something like that my brain is creating, or is it something that my body just needs some help? Yeah, and you can learn it. You can really learn it, and you can have a good life. So no matter are you the ones that can heal fully or get to the point when you just live happily, there are tools, there are ways you can overcome it and live a nice, happy life that you deserve. And that's the message I have for you. I hope it was useful. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.